On today's show, should the Dallas Mavericks be interested in Bradley Beal? Should they trade Tim Hardaway in the 10th pick for Bojan Bogdanovic and the 31st pick? That and trade back targets, all on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everydayer, and subscribe or follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know, should the Mavs be interested in Bradley Beal or should they not? Curious. If you want to support the show, text us, get text alerts from us on Mavs rumors and more. Talk with us and ask us questions. Subscribe to our subtext. We get actual text to your phones from me and Isaac. Great stuff on there, so subscribe. It helps support the show. And joining me, friend of the show, he's Mavs Draft on Twitter. He's Magic Draft in his heart. Co-host of Locked On NBA Big Board. What you got for me, Richard Stayman?
Hey, it's good to be back. It's been, like a month maybe? And it's refreshing and obviously on one of the more chaotic weeks of the year.
It's been like a month, and I know all the draft players' names now. And I know what they do, and I know who I like and I don't like, and that was not the case when I had you on like a month ago. But yeah, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We'll talk about trade back targets, if the Mavs have any of those. Richard's got a list of them that he was interested in that I'm kind of interested to hear more about those guys. We'll talk about the rumor from ESPN that Tim Hardaway Jr. and the 10th pick could be traded for Bojan Bogdanovic and the 31st pick. Talk about that. But let's start with this. The news. We're recording this on a Wednesday night. This is coming out on Friday. And the Washington Wizards are now open. And Bradley Beal is open because he has the no trade clause. He's open to a trade. They're looking at a rebuild. They revamped the whole front office. And so now Bradley Beal is available. Richard Stayman, if you're the Dallas Mavericks, should you be interested in Bradley Beal in any way, shape, or form?
Earlier today when the news broke, I was like, absolutely. And then you came to the rescue and go, well, if they have Kyrie, they have $134 million just tied to those three guards, two of which are under 6'4". So no, but if Kyrie's gone, he's a great backup option. That should be really the only play.
Yeah, they're in this spot where, yeah, like I said on Twitter, like you add them all together, and if Kyrie's making, let's say he makes the full max, it is $134 million between the three of them, because Luka's making 40, Brad Beal's making like 46, and then Kyrie's making like 46, and it's like 0.9 for each of them. So you add that all together, it's 134. So this has been my thing for a while. If the Mavericks are keeping Kyrie Irving, that's the 2 stars you get. Like you can't do a go star hunting, try to get a third star, Karl-Anthony Towns, even go Bear. Like you can't get somebody that's star level money at that point, because you have to fill out the rest of the roster. What did we just learn this whole past year to go and try and get somebody? Like how you have to fill out the rest of the roster, including the fact that Bradley Beal has played 50 and 40 games the last 2 years. He was a pretty healthy player for the first part of his career. He played 82 games twice in his career. The 2 shortened seasons, he didn't miss a ton of time. But the last 2 years, it's been 40 and 50 games. Like he's a good player, and a Luka, Kyrie, Bradley Beal backcourt would be incredible on offense. Like you can't stop that on offense because you just have driving and shooting from every single angle at that point. It doesn't matter who the other 2 players are on the court, really. Defensively, like you said, to have small guards like that, it's kind of difficult. And the money wise, like they can't be interested in him. To me, they probably will be. But if you're getting Kyrie Irving back, which they think they are, I don't think you can go after Bradley Beal at all.
Yeah, it's just on paper. Like if you're building a 2K league out, hey, it's great. Go ahead and do it. But it's just 2K is not real life. It comes down to that. So again, you talked me off the ledge, but like they do. They still, like, the reason I was so adamant about it at first, I was like, well, they're just not in a position to turn down an opportunity and on paper, right, where you can get star talent for cheap. But
well, if you're the Wizards, though, would you do, because the trade would be, if you tried to put it together, it's Tim Hardaway, Davis Bertans, JaVale McGee. You just got to put together the contracts enough to get there. Like you're sending Davis back to the Wizards, like, hey, like you got to finish this. You got to finish this one out yourself. And then maybe the 10th pick. Maybe Josh Green, maybe Jaden Hardy. Like, maybe two of those three things at the end there that I just mentioned, but it's got to be those contracts. Like if you're the Wizards, are you even interested? Let's say they don't include Josh Green and Jaden Hardy. Are you interested in those contracts and 10 for Bradley Beal?
Probably not. I mean, look, the value's low, so like whenever those words are uttered, the Mavs are automatically entering the conversation. So
low value.
Like,
Wait, did you say Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah, right. So it's kind of hard to say no to that, but again, like nobody's signing up for Davis Bertans, nobody's signing up for JaVale McGee. A couple teams are signing up for Hardaway, but not like with that baggage, right? I think you have to include Jaden Hardy because, I mean, he's a similar play style to Bradley Beal, and he could be a nice replacement. Young, he's on his rookie contract, high upside. So I think he'd be somebody that definitely they'd want. But again, it's just they could go, all right, any other offers, and anybody else who throws an offer together wins.
And we're at the point now with the new CBA coming. We're going to talk about this so much. I'm going to mention this. So if you're tired of hearing me say the new CBA, then I'm sorry. It's just going to be part of the picture. With this new CBA, the new salary cap, the new restrictions, if you're $17 million over the cap, you're in the second apron, which is the second luxury tax there, and you're just screwed. You got frozen draft picks in the future. You have you can't like aggregate players in trades. Like there's just so many things that you can't do in that sense. And so you have to avoid that. And so it's hard to have, in that sense, it's hard to have Brad Beal, who's going to make $50 million soon, to be 35% of your cap when you have two other players. Like it's just not going to be possible for some of these teams. You'd run into a Golden State Warriors style, like, luxury tax bill. And for some people, they'll be like, oh, Cuban should pay that. But why would he pay it for a team that wouldn't be a championship contender? And I don't even know that Luka, Kyrie, and Brad Beal are a championship contender because it doesn't fix any of their issues besides, secondary, tertiary ball handling at that point. So for that reason, on Bradley Beal, I'm out.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. I mean, there's some teams where it works if they're a young team that has financial flexibility at the moment and may want to consolidate. I mean, honestly, just kind of bringing it back. You said at the beginning, a Magic draft. Magic would be somebody that I don't think they're going to do it, but I can see them making that conversation happen. I mean, Markelle Fultz's contract is coming up. Jonathan Isaac is dead money at this point. I mean, he's just bringing his name up.
It's sleep money. It's not woke money. It's sleep money.
So, I mean, I think someone like that has to take the swing, right? It's not going to be a team like Atlanta. They can't do it. Like these teams that are stuck in this awkward position, they're not going to be the ones to do it. It's these up and coming teams that say, hey, we have some extra money. Let's make it happen. But even then, it's such a headache to deal with.
How would you even put it together for the Magic? It's like Fultz, Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac for like 6 and 11 and 6 and 11 for Brad Beal. Like, would you do that?
I don't think you give up both picks. I think
for Bradley Beal, even like if you've got the money, because they have guys on rookie deals, so they're not paying anybody more than $17 million next year.
Well, I think they get rid of some of the young guys like Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz. I think you're able to dump KK. Bol, I don't know how much value he actually has, but stuff like that where you can throw in. I mean, if you really want to not have a bunch of guys in there, you could also just do Suggs and say, all right, he's not exactly what they were looking for Orlando, but I still don't want to give up on him. But I think you could do Cole Anthony entering restricted free agency, Chuma Okeke, same thing.
Yeah.
So I think those are two guys that they have good sweetener value more than and I'd probably say you give up the 6th or 11th pick.
I'm fascinated to see what they do with Bradley Beal, the Wizards, and what they do with Porzingis. He's got this player option. I think he probably just picks it up at that point because he's not getting it. Like, are the Rockets super excited to sign Porzingis? Are the Spurs? That'd be so weird if the Spurs signed him and he was with Wembanyama. Like, it kind of makes sense. These teams got to spend on somebody, so maybe they do. But yeah, that's going to be a weird one for me, and I'm interested to see what they do. And now with this new front office, with Michael Winger as the new guy that's running the Wizards front office, I'm interested to see how an actual rebuild starts. I texted the Locked On Wizards guys today, and I was like, hey, congrats on the rebuild, because they've been calling for it seemingly for years, and they've needed to do it for a while. But coming up, let's talk about the rumor that Tim Hardaway could be traded to the Pistons for Bojan Bogdanovic with the 10th pick. We'll talk about all that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs is incredible shorts. They're so great. They're so comfortable. They have a lining in them to where you can wear them without underwear. You can still wear them with underwear. I do, and I enjoy them with underwear. But some people enjoy without. I went to the movies recently. I saw Spider-Verse for the second time. It's an amazing movie. It's incredible. Every single frame of that movie is like you could put it on your wall because it just looks so great. And I was wearing bird dogs, and I was sitting in the theater, and I was comfortable, and it was great. I could also wear them to a meeting in all kinds of places. So you can check it out. birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. You can get a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA to see what they have. They also have like joggers. They have sweatpants. They have all kinds of other stuff. So again, check it out. birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, making us part of your day, being part of this show, being a Raccoon Squad card-carrying member. The ultimate mock draft, the Mavs, the Locked On NBA mock draft compilation from the Mavs pick, from everybody's pick, is going to be released tomorrow, Thursday. If you're listening to this, watching this on Thursday today. And so you can go get it on the Locked On NBA feed, Locked On NBA Big Board feed. You can listen to the episode that I am going to be on the Locked On Mavs feed. So go check out the ultimate mock draft. It's incredible. All of us hosts made picks for our teams. And so it's all teams that are hosts that know what they're talking about when it comes to their team. Richard, you're on it, right?
I think so, yes.
Rafael Barlow's on it, hosting and doing a lot of stuff and talking through it. And I think we have Howard Beck talking through the trades that people made as well. We had a trade in place. We'll talk about Isaac and I will talk about it at some point. We had a trade in place, and then the draft went nuts, and we couldn't make the trade because somebody went rogue. It may be the Magic host, but but yeah, that's where we are. So, all right, let's talk about this rumor. According to ESPN, there are talks that the Pistons could be doing some stuff, making some moves. They've been talking about a Bojan Bogdanovic trade for a while, but the talk is that they could be moving the 31st pick. And they said that a trade could materialize, like Bojan Bogdanovic and the 31st pick for Tim Hardaway and the 10th pick. Richard Stayman, your instant reaction, being a draft expert as well as somebody that lives in the DFW area and watches many Mavs games. What's your thoughts on a trade like that?
I think it's an overpay. I think the 10th pick for a 34-year-old who'll be 35 middle of the season. I get it. Bojan's not your average 34-year-old. He looks very springy and fresh. Like, I'm all the way there. We saw it last year in the playoffs. He was defending Luka 94 feet and playing lights out offense. But at the end of the day, you're getting probably one more year at this level of him. Right. And then after that, it's going to be a steep fall off. I think it's bad asset management. I really don't like that at all. Absolutely.
I can't stand this trade. Even if you replace Davis with like Davis Bertans' contract with Tim Hardaway, and so then you keep Tim Hardaway in this deal, like I still don't think I'm trading the 10th pick for Bojan Bogdanovic. Like, they have to get somebody that will play for them, and I think play for them for a couple of years. It can't just be the one for 1 year with Bojan Bogdanovic. You're getting somebody that you know would be an upgrade. Let's be honest. He would be an upgrade over Tim Hardaway. He's probably an upgrade, and probably he'll play better than any of the rookies they would get at the 10th pick in year one, right? But that's not how this works. Like, you have to manage these assets and keep them for a little while. And like you said, and also his defense is fine, but it's not good enough for what they need in that spot. They need somebody. They need a fringe elite defensive player at one of the other three spots on the starters. You know, Luka, Kyrie, and then a fringe elite defensive player like an Aaron Gordon, like an Andrew Wiggins, right? Like the players that we've seen recently make big impacts in finals. They need somebody like that, and they're not going to get it in Bogdanovic. If they did do this trade, though, who are you looking at with the 31st pick? We'll talk about trade back targets in a little bit, but who would you target at that point?
Someone's going to slip. You could get a high upside pick like Dariq Whitehead from Duke. I really do like him. I think he's somebody who, if he was healthy, obviously health does matter. Foot injuries aren't exactly something that you want to be messing with. At the same time, like he was a number 3 or 4 recruit out of high school for very good reason. He was a misfit at Duke, didn't get to flash what he could do because of that and injuries. I think he'd be my number one choice. And at this point, the 25-30 range is his range. I think he might make it out of the first round because nobody wants to give him a guaranteed contract. So if you got 31, the very first pick, you got him.
James Najee is somebody that I've talked about. We did a quick draft profile on trade back targets. Somebody that I would maybe look at. You have to develop him a little bit more, but that's a center that could come in and be a big body. That's a rim runner. He's not going to do a lot of post up stuff. He's not going to shoot, but he can run and he can defend. He's like a Dwight Howard to me. Like, he's built the same way as Dwight Howard. He's like 6'10", the same way Dwight Howard was. Doesn't have a post game the same way that Dwight Howard did. But he's that kind of player that they could develop. Like, that's a name that I would look at that spot.
Yeah. I think he'd be interesting. I mean, he's a big, he fills the need, but will a rim runner suffice? Like, that's really the question. Do you want someone with more skill, more elite level, one area, like more half court oriented? That's really where I think it comes down to.
Yeah. And then if the Mavs make that trade and it's like Bogdanovich for 1 year, and then it's like James Najee, like that's what you get for 10 and Hardaway. You're like, okay, I'm getting somebody that may help for 1 year and somebody that won't help for like 1 or 2 years. That's just, like you said, it would be bad asset management at this point. To me, the reason why this was like even said on ESPN, it was written in a mock draft, is because somebody's trying to devalue the 10th pick. There's a trade that is being talked about, and somebody's saying, well, they talked about Bogdanovich. Like, if they're saying that, then, well, their trade for, I don't know, whoever, like name somebody. Their trade for Miles Turner, well, we can get more than that, or we can get Jared Allen. Like, Jared Allen's more valuable than Bogdanovich. Like, if they're only getting that in trade. So to me, that it just comes out to muddle the water, to muddle the waters. Did I pull an Isaac Harris? Did I pull an Isaac Harris there with the phrases? To muddy the waters, to make it seem like that 10th pick is devalued at that point. To me, that's why this comes out. Isaac and I love the game of, all right, why did this rumor get released? Why is it being said now? Which side is it? This would not come out from the Mavs side, right? Like, that just doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. It's smoke screen season. You really got to be questioning why and how and when. Like, all of that combination, it's like that's when all of it comes out. The Mavs are generally tight-lipped. Like, think about all the trades the Mavs have made of like the big 4 trades, right? The Christian Wood, Porzingis, Kyrie, and the Josh Richardson one for Mavs legend Moses Brown. Not a single one of those had any leaking beforehand. They're like, ooh, you know what? Like, maybe 26 last year, they knew that, draft night trades could happen, but stuff feels off on that. Like, I really don't think this is something that the Mavs are truly exploring. I think this is a smokescreen.
What did you say?
Does anyone smell anything smoky?
Smokescreen season. Dwight Schrute, 100%. Yeah, this one doesn't make any sense to me. So for everybody that was freaking out about it, stuff like this is going to come out. Like, rumors are going to happen with Tim Hardaway and the 10th pick, but they got to get somebody that can be there and play like 30 to 40 minutes in a playoff game, I think. And Bojan does it maybe for 1 year, but not 2 or 3 years after that. So that's what I think about that rumor. All right, let's get into some picks and some draft stuff. Let's start with this first before we start into trade back targets. Who do you think do we know at this point who's going to be available for the Mavericks at 10? Do we have a good idea of like the 4 to 5 players that you would look at and say, okay, I think these guys are going to be on the board?
I worry that none of them will, but the way the draft works,
none of the players.
I mean, it's really the top 9 is strong in terms of like where the mock draft is. I would say there's like 1 or 2 players who I'm a little bit more sour on than the rest. But for me, I think it's really somebody's going to fall, right? Like, it never goes like no mock draft, even ESPN, like 2017, they nailed everything. They had the Markkanen trade going to Chicago, all that. They had all of it to a T. But they still only got like 50-60% of the mock draft right. It was one of the best mock drafts.
Yeah.
But like, mock drafts aren't accurate. That's what you got to understand. It's generally throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it sticks. So 3 or 4 names to finally get on with the question. I think Anthony Black is their number 1 target. Taylor Hendricks, Jarris Walker. And if you want to have some fun with it, let's just throw in somebody else in here. Let's go with Leonard Miller from the G League.
Wow. Okay, wait. Tell me about Leonard Miller, because we haven't done a draft profile on him. I haven't heard his name at all really in this. He seems to be a guy that goes in like the late teens, 20s. But what about Leonard Miller? Tell me about him.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a disconnect. There's always a disconnect on some guys with the mocks and everything. But so first of all, by the way, it's pure speculation. I don't think he's like necessarily super in the mix, but I would say if the Mavs are building out like their top 10 guys at 10, Leonard Miller's 100% in that top 10. So he has to really be considered. Where he is, hard to say. At best 4, probably realistic like 5 or 6. But with him, he's, the Kawhi measure, or the Masai measurements, where it's like 6'10", 7'2" wingspan, 10.5-inch hands. Leonard Miller has that. It's very few players in the league have that. Kawhi, Tari Eason, there's a few others. Generally, it's a very successful frame, right? Leonard Miller has that. He's been in the G League, running pro competition, learning to be a pro. He's developed a ton over the last year. He struggles to shoot, but he's a 6'10 defender, can finish at the rim, has nice playmaking upside. But there's a lot there. You'd finally have somebody over 6'5 that's not Luka Doncic that can dribble the ball. And even though he has a lot of work to do in terms of like half court ball handling, he can at least run in transition. He can take one dribble towards the rim. Like, there's a lot to like there in terms of upside, and he's 19 years old.
What's the difference between him and like a Taylor Hendricks? We talked about Taylor Hendricks a lot, who's like that big defensive wing that you want.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty good shot, but he's got some limitations. Like, what's the difference between those two guys?
Two things. One, the jump shooting. And two, Leonard Miller right now is a little bit more theoretical, whereas Taylor Hendricks is very practical, plug and play right now. Yeah. I do think Leonard Miller he has the frame and like he knows what to do and the skill set to really make himself playable, but the level of just skill right now and ability right now there's a good gap.
Interesting. I have not heard that name as one that anyone has mentioned should be in the mix. But yeah, so check out Leonard Miller. And coming up, we'll talk about some trade back targets. The Mavericks do make a trade with the Magic, with the Pelicans, with the Hawks, with somebody to move back 5 spots, 10 spots, even to the end of the first round. Who should they be targeting? We've got 5 names or so, and we'll talk about those coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Game Time is the place to check out all the different tickets and events and stuff throughout the Mavs offseason. And you've got a ton of stuff. Metallica coming to AT&T Stadium in August. I know you're going to be there front row, Richard. I know that's your scene. Logic is going to be at Southside Ballroom down in Dallas. So you can check that out. $35 for a ticket to go see Logic. Cowboys games are already up. I think this is a preseason. No, this can't be right. November 30th, Seattle at Dallas. That's not a preseason game because it's November. $30. Look at that. On the Game Time app. All kinds of stuff you can check out. Dave Chappelle. There's all kinds of sporting events and things like that. And you can use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first ticket. Again, LOCKEDONNBA is the promo code. Game Time is the app. Download it. Create an account. LOCKEDONNBA is the promo code on the Game Time app. All right, Richard, we're talking about the draft. Gave me Leonard Miller that I hadn't thought about for the Mavericks at 10. And so now let's talk about some trade back targets. Who should the Mavericks be interested in if they do make a trade back 5, 10 spots like that into the middle of the first round? They still want to draft somebody, but they do a trade like the Bogdanovic trade, but it's a little bit better for them, hopefully. Give me some names that you're interested in as trade back targets.
Yeah, there's several. You want 5?
Give me 5, yeah.
All right, and give me general range. Give me like specific numbers, and I'll.
Let's go. Let's say they do a trade back with the Pelicans, Hawks, something like that. So like 14 to 20.
So 14 to 20.
Range.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So that is ideal. Jordan Hawkins, Bryce Sensabaugh, Noah Clowney. I'm deciding between a couple here. I'd say Ryan Rupert, and let's make things spicy. Nick Smith.
We talked about Jordan Hawkins. I think we did a draft profile on him. Shooter, I think he's the best shooter in the draft. Just watching him, so we've talked about him before. But tell me more about some of these other guys.
Yeah, so let's go to Bryce Sensabaugh. This is like an order now, so I have Hawkins highest on my board of these 5. Bryce Sensabaugh is somebody who is also theoretical right now, but the upside is probably the very highest of any one of the 5 players I've named. So he's kind of a traditional like 2000s isolation player. He doesn't have much passing. He can pass. He just didn't pass at Ohio State. Same thing with defense. He was a great on-ball defender when he wanted to be. Like, he has the tools to be good in that department. But when he actually has to play in a slow within the scheme of the defense, he was absolutely abysmal. So you got a lot of concerns there. The immediate value isn't there. He still has to learn the game. But in terms of skill for his age, he's very advanced. He's somebody who will be able to save you in the playoffs. I like him a lot. I think he's somebody that he might go towards 20 and return top 10 value very easily.
Another name that you mentioned was Ryan Rupert. I've heard his name several times from the New Zealand Breakers. Tell me about him.
Yeah, so with Ryan Rupert, he's actually been training in Dallas this summer since his season ended. He's got the same agent as Wembanyama. Fun fact, so long game. But with him, there's more immediate value. There's concerns offensively. He didn't finish very well for somebody just as absolutely physically dominant as him. He's 7'2" wingspan, 6'6", massively long. So kind of feeds into what it seems pretty obvious is coming. He's a defense. He has point guard skills. Jump shot needs work. Finishing needs work. But there's a lot to build with Ryan Rupert.
Between Wembanyama and Bilal Coulibaly and Ryan Rupert, what are they doing with arms in France? Like, are they're get him to that program and they just like stretch him out at that point? Like, good Lord.
Hey, don't forget Nick Batum. He's got ridiculously long arms too.
Yeah, fair. Where do you see the fit with Rupert? Like, does he come in the NBA? Does he take a little while to make an impact with the Mavericks? Would this be like a development piece for them, or could you see him making an impact day one?
Both. He's an upgrade to Neil Aquino. He would do the exact same thing, right? And it's not a knock on Neil Aquino. It's just Neil Aquino's like 6'4".
No, it's just that
people forget about Frank.
and like for me, that's an immediate roster upgrade. He's been that defensive specialist. He's able to guard higher up in the lineups, like he can guard forwards. Frank Ntilikina really couldn't. That's where the difference is. You get more of that plus long-term offensive upside.
What's the biggest concern for him? Is it the shot?
The jump shot's really bad. It's a push shot that it's a few motions. Like I think he's also really young. He probably just doesn't know how to use his length properly at this point.
Yeah. Like
it's a lot of arms going into that shot. So I think that's a big thing. Also, he's just got to be consistent at finishing at the rim.
There was Noah Clowney was another name that you mentioned. What could Noah Clowney bring to the Mavs?
Yeah, he's got one of the best feels for the game, just basketball intelligence, I think. Still a growing shooter. He's had a lot of ups and downs. Same agent as Jaden Hardy with clutch. High motor, just incredible intelligence, though. I think that's really what's going to carry him. He's a good rebounder, still has a lot of frame to grow into, still getting stronger. He has soft hands. He catches everything. Very good athlete. So right now you're looking at a potential stretch big that can defend the rim and finish at the rim.
A stretch big that can defend and finish at the rim is something that the Mavericks desperately need. The problem is with like trading back at this point is the Mavs need to address their center spot. But if they could do like a trade back and they trade back with, I don't know, let's say they trade back with the Nets. They do one of those kind of deals where somehow they get Jared Allen from the Cavs. They trade back and get like, there's a 3-team deal where they get that 21st pick or 22nd pick, and they do like a Jared Allen, Noah Clowney. Does that feel like a big man rotation that in the NBA could work?
I think so. I mean, they counter each other, right? Like, I mean, as long as they're shooting jumpers, at least one of them.
Yeah, like that's some kind of move that I think they need to make. I think that they have too many holes. They've got to fill a wing position as well. So to blow your load on that kind of a trade and to do two bigs to fix your big man rotation, like maybe that feels okay. But you also still have Maxey. So Maxey is your backup big and like your situational 5 where you can play a little bit smaller and stretch the floor. You can still make that move. And so I don't know that a backup center is right if they do that, but they've got to get more size on the wings because their wings are just way too small at this point. And
that's where Rupert helps.
Yeah, Rupert, Leonard Miller, some of these guys that we've been talking about. A name that you mentioned to me was Kobe Buffkin. We haven't done a profile on him yet. What could Kobe Buffkin bring to the Mavs?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I have him actually as my 12th rated player.
Wow.
I think he's somebody who if you really hunt for flaws, it's really hard to find what that glaring flaw is. Like for me, it was that he's not a true point guard yet. And this was his first season ever running point guard. He was a shooting guard in high school. And he wasn't bad at it. Like he actually looked competent. So for me, I think there's a lot of upside as a high level combo guard, great defender, super active hands, able to score at all 3 levels, elite free throw percentage at 85 plus. Like that's high level shooting upside. So I think there's a lot there, and his motor's just nonstop. Like he will crash the offensive glass. He'll get rebounds, which again, you're getting both. Like, yeah, you don't need a guard, whatever, but like at the same time, the role he does as a guard is different from quite literally every other guard that the Mavs have, save Luka Doncic.
I think they could still get a guard. I mean, it's not their number one thing, but to me, like watching Case and Wallace stuff, I'm like, if they take him at 10, like I feel okay about that because I think he could come in and play. Like, I don't know if you're doing a Luka, Kyrie, Case and Wallace lineup, but Case and Wallace may be able to play well enough early on and defend guards well enough early on that you can get away with something like that in certain situations. But yeah, okay, so At 10, let's do the. We may have you on before the draft again, but parting shot. Who do you think they take? And if they end up taking Derek Lively, which seems to be likely right now, what are your thoughts on that? So first of all, who do you think they do end up taking?
Every single day it changes.
I know.
Every single day. I think they're going to get Taylor Hendricks at 10.
Wow.
Yesterday I would have said Anthony Black. I think too many teams are going to fall in love with Anthony Black. The intel's so strong on him. I think it's going to be Taylor Hendricks. If it's Derek Lively and they don't trade back for it, I'd be upset. I think he'll be fine. Like, I think he's going to be a good player. But I feel like you could take him at 13, 14, 15. Like, at a minimum, trade with, I don't know, Oklahoma City. They have a bajillion 2024 picks. And if you get even their worst one, which profiles, like, let's say it's the 30th pick. So what? You can now trade all those picks. Like, you've relinquished your jail cell pretty much on yourself with trades that you can't do because of this Porzingis trade that somehow is still going on. So,
still the first one, not even the second Porzingis trade, the first Porzingis trade. That's why they can't trade first round picks. They should. I was thinking about this on our in our NBA like water cooler meeting today. What if they traded back with 14 and got Valanciunas somehow? And then took Lively then. Then all of a sudden, you fixed your big man rotation. Like that to me, you get rebounding, you get shooting with Lively and a developmental piece. And then like Valanciunas is like money comes off the books in a year or so. So you got your stopgap and then you have Lively. The problem is you don't fix your wing, but maybe you could do that with another kind of move. But yeah, that's the type of move that I think that they could do.
I'd love it. I don't know if New Orleans does it, but I absolutely love it.
But what if they fall in love with somebody at 10? Like, what if Anthony Black does fall or Taylor Hendricks? They love those type of wings. They've got several of them, or what if they love Cason Wallace? Like I think he would fit really well for them. Like that's the type of player that they need. If they love his point guard skills as much as some people do. But yeah, so there's some moves. If they do take Derek Lively, you're not for it at that spot. You wish that they would trade back, but you think he would be a good player.
I'm for taking him. I really think he's somebody you can get assets while taking. Like, I don't think 11 through 14 or maybe New Orleans, but 11 through 14, most of them aren't going to be, hunting for Derek Lively.
Yeah. There you go. You can go follow Richard Stayman at Mavs Draft on Twitter. You can go listen to the Locked On NBA Big Board daily talking about the draft. Great stuff from Rafael Barlow and the crew. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out.